The stars disappeared one by one as massive ships blocked them out. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched Earth through the viewing screen. The small blue planet looked so peaceful and weak. His crystal ship was bigger than most of their cities. Behind him stretched a fleet of 1,200 vessels, each one carrying enough firepower to crack a moon in half. Kethvar had done this 17 times before. 17 worlds had faced the same choice he was about, to give Earth. None had chosen to fight. They all surrendered when they saw the size of his fleet. The humans would be no different. He activated the communication array that would broadcast his message to every screen and radio on the planet below. His translator made his words sound cold and final in their primitive language. People of Earth, I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. You are surrounded by forces you cannot comprehend. Your world has been chosen for integration into our empire. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. Lay down all weapons and prepare for occupation. If you refuse, your planet will be destroyed and your species erased from existence. This is your only warning. The transmission ended. Kethvar smiled as he thought about how easy this would be. Human technology was laughably primitive. Their fastest ships barely reached other planets in their own system. Their weapons were chemical explosives and simple energy beams. They had no shields, no dimensional drives, no reality warping capabilities. This would be over quickly. On Earth, President Linda Carter sat in the emergency bunker beneath Washington. The room buzzed with activity as generals and scientists argued about their response. She watched the alien ships on the main screen and felt the weight of 7 billion lives on her shoulders. General Marcus Stone leaned forward in his chair. Madam President, we need to consider negotiation. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. A direct fight would be suicide. Space Command Director Amy Walsh shook her head. Sir, negotiation assumes they want something from us other than total surrender. That message was clear. This is conquest, not diplomacy. Then what do you suggest? Carter asked. Our best weapons are nuclear missiles that take hours to reach their targets. Their ships could vaporize our entire fleet before we fired a single shot. Dr. Jake Morrison had been quiet until now. He sat at the far end of the table, a thin man with gray hair and tired eyes. When he spoke, everyone turned to listen. Madam President, there is another option. Carter frowned. What option, Doctor? Morrison stood and walked to the screen showing the alien fleet. For 50 years, a small group of people have been preparing for this exact moment. We knew they would come eventually. We've been getting ready. What are you talking about? Stone demanded. I know every military project in development. We have nothing that could challenge technology like this. Morrison smiled for the first time anyone could remember. General, you know about the public projects, the ones designed to make us look primitive and harmless. The real fleet has been hidden where they cannot find it. Amy Walsh leaned forward. Hidden where? Our satellites show every ship we have. There's nowhere to hide a fleet large enough to matter. Not in normal space, Morrison replied. We've been building in the spaces between dimensions, places that exist but cannot be detected by conventional sensors. We learned how from artifacts we found buried under the Pacific Ocean 30 years ago. The room fell silent. Carter stared at him. Are you telling me we have a secret space fleet? Not just a fleet, Madam President, an armada. Ships built with technology that makes what you see up there look like stone axes. We call it the Black Armada, and it's been waiting for this day. Morrison walked to a secure terminal and entered a series of codes. The screen changed to show what looked like empty space, but as he adjusted the sensors, shapes began to appear. Dark ships that seemed to absorb light itself, vessels that hurt to look at directly because they existed partially outside normal reality. "My God," whispered Walsh. "How many?" "Enough," Morrison said simply. "Captain Lisa Hayes is aboard the command ship Nightfall. She's been waiting for activation codes for 15 years. Her crew knows this moment would come." 60,000 miles from Earth, Captain Lisa Hayes felt the vibration through her ship as the activation signal arrived. The Nightfall existed in a pocket of folded space where time moved differently. To her crew, they had been on station for 3 months. To the outside universe, they had been waiting for decades. Hayes was 45 years old but looked 30, due to the time distortion effects of their hiding place. Her crew of 200 had trained for this mission since childhood, learning to operate technology that humanity had reverse-engineered from ancient alien ruins. "Signal confirmed," reported her communications officer, Lieutenant Paul Grant. "All units are receiving activation codes." Hayes nodded and touched the control that would bring her ship back into normal space. "Begin phase transition. Alert all department heads that we are moving to combat readiness." Around Earth, space began to ripple as reality bent and twisted. The Zephyrian sensors detected strange energy readings but could not identify their source. Admiral Kethvar frowned as his science officer reported unusual dimensional fluctuations. "What could cause readings like this?" he asked. "Unknown, Admiral. The energy patterns don't match anything in our database. It's almost like space itself is being manipulated." President Carter watched Morrison's screens as more dark shapes appeared in the sensor displays. Ships that looked like they were made from crystallized shadow. Vessels that seemed to exist in multiple places at once. Fighters that phased in and out of visible reality. "How is this possible?" she asked. Morrison's expression grew serious. 30 years ago, deep-sea mining operations discovered ruins on the ocean floor. Structures that were millions of years old, built by a species that vanished long before humans evolved. We've been studying their technology ever since. "And you kept this secret from everyone?" "We had to. If word got out, every hostile species in the galaxy would have come to claim the artifacts. We needed time to learn, to prepare, to become strong enough to protect ourselves and our discoveries." General Stone studied the display. "How advanced is this technology compared to what's up there?" Morrison looked at the alien fleet on the main screen. "General, what you see above us represents the current peak of galactic civilization. What we've built represents the technology of a species that ruled the galaxy when these aliens were still learning to make fire. The 72-hour deadline was counting down. 18 hours remained when Captain Hayes brought the Nightfall fully into normal space. The massive vessel materialized like a shadow gaining substance, its dark hull seeming to drink the light from nearby stars. On the Zephyrian flagship, alarms began sounding as sensors detected the impossible ship. Kethvar stared at the readings, in confusion. The vessel hadn't approached from any direction. It had simply appeared, as if reality had been torn open to allow it passage. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, voice shaking. "I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the system. Ships are appearing everywhere." More dark vessels phased into existence around Earth. Destroyers that flickered between dimensions. Cruisers that seemed to be made of crystallized time itself. Fighters that moved through space like living shadows. President Carter received the final communication from Morrison as the Black Armada revealed itself to the galaxy. Madam President, please transmit this message to the alien fleet. Carter nodded to her communications officer. The signal went out on all frequencies, reaching every ship in the Zephyrian Armada. Admiral Kethvar, this is Earth. Your 72-hour ultimatum is rejected. You expected surrender, but we offer something else entirely. Welcome to humanity's true face. Above Earth, space filled with ships that defied physics and reason. The Black Armada had emerged from its long hiding, and the galaxy was about to learn that humanity was not the primitive species it appeared to be. Admiral Kethvar watched in growing alarm as more impossible ships materialized around his fleet. The vessels seemed to be made of darkness itself, their hulls absorbing light and radar signals without reflecting anything back. His tactical displays showed energy readings that made no sense according to known physics. "Sir, we're detecting over 300 vessels and the number keeps growing," reported his science officer. "Their energy signatures are unlike anything in our database." Kethvar had conquered 17 worlds using overwhelming force and superior technology. Every species had submitted when faced with the crystal ships of the Zephyrian Empire. But these human vessels looked ancient and alien, as if they belonged to a civilization far older than his own. "Begin charging the annihilation beam," he ordered. "Target their largest ship." The weapon that had destroyed entire continents began drawing power from the flagship's core. The massive crystal arrays along the ship's hull started glowing with deadly energy. This would show the humans the futility of resistance. Captain Danny Parker stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Shadow's Edge and smiled as he watched the alien weapon charge. His ship existed partially outside normal space-time, making it nearly impossible to target accurately. The Zephyrian beam would pass harmlessly through empty space where they thought his vessel was located. "All stations report ready for combat," announced his first officer, Commander Kelly Ross. "Dimensional drives are operating at full capacity." Parker nodded and activated the ship's primary weapon system. The Shadow's Edge carried reality distortion cannons that could tear holes in the fabric of space itself. The technology came from ruins found beneath Earth's deepest ocean trenches, artifacts left by a species that had vanished millions of years ago. "Target their flagship," Parker ordered. "Let's show them what ancient technology can do." The weapon fired. But instead of a visible beam or projectile, space around the Zephyrian flagship began to ripple and warp. Reality itself twisted as the shot traveled through dimensions that existed parallel to normal space. Kethvar felt his ship shudder as something impossible struck the hull. The crystal armor that could withstand planet-killer weapons cracked like glass. Emergency alerts filled the bridge as sections of the ship simply ceased to exist, erased from reality by forces his science officer couldn't even identify. "Damage report," he shouted. "Sir, we've lost decks 12 through 18. They're not destroyed, they're just gone. Sensors show empty space where they used to be." Commander Beth Rogers piloted her phase fighter squadron through the Zephyrian, formation like ghosts passing through walls. Her ships could shift between dimensions at will, making them untouchable by conventional weapons. The technology required pilots with specially modified nervous systems that could process multidimensional sensory input without going insane. Rogers had volunteered for the neural modifications 15 years ago, knowing she would spend her life defending Earth from threats most humans couldn't even imagine. Her squadron of 30 fighters moved through space like living shadows, striking the enemy and vanishing before return fire could find them. "Blue Leader to all units," she transmitted. "Begin attack run on enemy cruisers. Use temporal displacement on your targeting systems. The fighters fired weapons that existed in multiple time streams simultaneously. The shots hit their targets in the past, present, and future at the same moment, making defensive measures impossible. Zephyrian cruisers exploded as their hulls were struck by attacks that came from several different moments in time. Admiral Tony Mitchell coordinated the battle from the command ship Voidwalker, a massive vessel that existed in 11 dimensions, at once. His tactical displays showed not just the current positions of enemy ships, but probability cascades of where they would be in the next several minutes. The ancient technology allowed him to fight battles across time itself. Sir, enemy. Formations are beginning to break apart, reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Carl Turner. Their admiral is trying to establish a defensive perimeter, but our phase ships are attacking from directions that don't exist in normal space. Mitchell studied the holographic display that showed the battle across multiple dimensional planes. The Zephyrian ships were trapped in a three-dimensional understanding of warfare, while the Black Armada fought in ways that defied their comprehension. "Have Captain Davis begin her infiltration run," Mitchell ordered. "Let's see how they handle an attack from inside their own formation." Captain Karen Davis commanded the stealth destroyer Night's Whisper, a ship built from materials that existed in the spaces between atoms. Her vessel could become intangible at will, passing through solid matter like a ghost. The technology was based on ancient artifacts that suggested the universe contained far more dimensions than most species could perceive. Davis guided her ship directly into the center of the Zephyrian fleet, her hull phasing through the crystal vessels as if they were made of mist. Once inside their formation, she materialized long enough to launch a spread of singularity torpedoes before vanishing again. The weapons were miniature black holes contained in temporal stasis fields. When they struck enemy ships, they consumed the vessels from within, creating tiny collapsed stars that lasted only seconds before evaporating in bursts of exotic radiation. Kethvar watched in horror as 3 of his heavy cruisers simply imploded, crushed by gravitational forces that appeared from nowhere. His fleet was being destroyed by weapons and tactics that violated everything he understood about warfare. These humans fought like the legendary ancients from myths and children's stories. "Sir," his communications officer reported, voice trembling, "we're receiving surrender requests from 12 of our escort vessels. Their captains are asking for permission to abandon ship." "Denied," Kethvar snapped. "The Zephyrian Empire does not retreat from primitive species." But even as he spoke, he knew the humans were anything but primitive. Their technology was so advanced it seemed like magic. Ships that existed in multiple dimensions. Weapons that attacked through time itself. Pilots who could phase through solid matter at will. Dr. Rachel Bennett monitored the battle from Earth's command bunker, her screens showing energy readings that confirmed her worst fears and greatest hopes. The ancient artifacts her team had studied for 3 decades were finally being used for their intended purpose, and humanity was proving worthy of the inheritance left by their mysterious benefactors. "The dimensional stress patterns are holding stable," she reported to President Carter. "The fleet is operating well within safe parameters for reality manipulation." Carter watched the impossible battle unfold above her planet. "Dr. Bennett, what exactly did we find down there in the ocean?" Bennett's expression grew thoughtful. "Evidence of a species that ruled the galaxy long before any current civilization evolved. They built technology that worked with the fundamental forces of reality itself. We think they chose Earth as a hiding place for their most advanced systems." "Chose Earth? Why?" We're still learning, but our genetics show signs of artificial modification dating back millions of years. Someone or something altered human DNA to be compatible with their technology. We may have been designed to be their inheritors. The battle above Earth continued as more Black Armada vessels emerged from dimensional hiding places throughout the solar system. Ships that had been waiting in folded space for decades revealed themselves as the need arose. The Zephyrian fleet found itself surrounded by forces they couldn't understand or effectively fight. Commander Steve Adams led boarding parties on two, captured enemy vessels using personal teleportation devices that allowed his Marines to walk through solid bulkheads. The alien crews watched in terror as human soldiers appeared inside their most secure areas, protected by armor that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Secure the bridge," Adams ordered as his team materialized on the command deck of a Zephyrian destroyer. "Take their officers alive for interrogation." The alien captain raised his hands in surrender, his multiple eyes wide with fear. "How did you get past our shields?" Adams smiled grimly. "Your shields protect against attacks from your dimension. We came from somewhere else entirely." As the battle raged, it became clear that the Zephyrian Empire had made a catastrophic error in judgment. They had expected to find a primitive world ripe for conquest. Instead, they had discovered the inheritors of ancient technology, a species that had been preparing for galactic warfare while pretending to be harmless explorers. The Black Armada continued to emerge from its hiding places, each new vessel more impossible than the last. Ships that moved through time as easily as space. Weapons that could erase targets from existence itself. A fleet built by humanity, but designed by minds that understood reality in ways most species never could. Admiral Kethvar realized with growing despair that his empire had not encountered a primitive species. They had stumbled into the territory of apex predators who had been waiting patiently for someone to threaten their world. The hunters had become the hunted, and escape was looking increasingly impossible. The battle erupted across multiple dimensions as reality itself became a weapon. Admiral Kethvar watched his crystal ships crumble under attacks that came from directions that shouldn't exist. His fleet's energy shields were useless against weapons that phased between realities, striking from parallel universes where his defenses simply weren't there. "Sir, we've lost contact with 47 vessels," reported his tactical officer. "Their last transmissions indicated hull breaches that defy physics. Some ships are reporting that sections of their vessels have been aged thousands of years in seconds." Kethvar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Red markers indicated destroyed or disabled ships throughout his formation. The human fleet moved like living darkness through space, appearing and disappearing at will, striking without warning and vanishing before his weapons could lock onto them. Admiral Tony Mitchell coordinated the assault from the command ship Voidwalker, his consciousness linked directly to the vessel's ancient-derived AI system. The connection allowed him to process information across multiple timelines simultaneously, seeing not just what was happening now, but what would happen in the next several minutes. "Lieutenant Turner, bring us about to intercept the enemy's reserve." "Formation," Mitchell ordered. "They're going to attempt a flanking maneuver in approximately 4 minutes. Turner looked confused as he checked his sensors. "Sir, I don't see any reserve formation." "You will," Mitchell replied calmly. "Target coordinates sending to your station now." The Voidwalker's exotic matter drives bent space around the massive vessel, allowing it to move through folded reality faster than light could travel through normal space. The ship emerged behind the Zephyrian reserve fleet, just as they began their planned attack, catching them completely by surprise. Captain Karen Davis piloted the Night's Whisper through the enemy formation like a shark swimming through a school of fish. Her destroyer could become intangible at will, passing through solid matter as if it were empty space. The sensation of phasing through enemy ships was deeply unsettling to her crew, but they had trained for years to handle the psychological effects of multidimensional warfare. "Captain, we're receiving targeting data from the command ship," reported her weapons officer, Ensign Tom Bradley. "They want us to deploy singularity mines inside the enemy flagship." Davis nodded and guided her ship directly toward Kethvar's massive crystal vessel. The destroyer phased through the alien ship's hull, becoming solid just long enough to release a string of temporal mines throughout the enemy's critical systems. The weapons would activate in sequence, creating a chain reaction of controlled gravitational collapse. Kethvar felt his flagship shudder as impossible explosions tore through the ship from within. Sections of his vessel imploded as miniature black holes consumed matter and energy alike. Emergency bulkheads sealed automatically, but the damage was too extensive to contain. "Admiral, we have hull breaches on 17 decks," his damage control officer reported. "The humans somehow got weapons inside our ship without penetrating the hull." "That's impossible," Kethvar snarled. "Nothing can pass through our crystal armor." "Sir, respectfully, everything these humans do is impossible. Their technology violates the fundamental laws of physics." Commander Beth Rogers led her phase fighter squadron in a strike against the Zephyrian command and control vessels. Her pilots flew ships that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making them nearly impossible to target with conventional weapons. The fighters moved through space like living shadows, striking from angles that existed only in higher dimensional mathematics. "Gold Squadron, begin your attack run," Rogers transmitted. "Use temporal displacement targeting. Hit them in the past, present, and future simultaneously." The fighters fired their reality distortion cannons, weapons that shot coherent beams of manipulated space-time. The attacks struck their targets across multiple moments in time, making defensive measures useless. Zephyrian cruisers found themselves under fire from weapons that had already hit them before they were even fired. Dr. Jake Morrison watched the battle from Earth's command bunker, monitoring the dimensional stress readings that showed how much reality could bend before breaking. Completely. The ancient technology was powerful beyond imagination, but it came with risks that could destroy entire solar systems if misused. "Dr. Bennett, we're seeing some concerning fluctuations in the quantum substrate," he reported. "The reality distortion effects are approaching critical thresholds." Dr. Rachel Bennett studied the readings with growing concern. "We need to be careful. The ancients who built this technology understood reality in ways we're still learning. If we push too hard, we could tear holes in space-time that won't heal." President Carter listened to their exchange with alarm. "Are you saying our own weapons could destroy us?" "Not destroy," Bennett replied. "But they could change the fundamental nature of reality in this region of space. We might win the battle but find ourselves existing in a universe that operates by different physical laws." The Black Armada continued its relentless attack, emerging from dimensional hiding places throughout the solar system. Each new vessel that appeared was more impossible than the last, built with technology that treated the laws of physics as suggestions rather than absolute rules. Captain Lisa Hayes commanded a squadron of heavy cruisers that attacked through probability manipulation. Her ships could alter the likelihood of their weapons hitting targets, making impossible shots into statistical certainties. Enemy vessels found themselves struck by attacks that had virtually no chance of success according to conventional physics. "All units concentrate fire on the enemy dreadnoughts," Hayes ordered. "Use probability cascade targeting. Make their armor fail by changing the quantum chances of molecular cohesion." The ancient weapons reached across space and adjusted the fundamental probability matrices that held matter together. Zephyrian armor that should have been impenetrable suddenly became as fragile as glass, as the quantum forces binding its crystal structure were manipulated at the subatomic level. Commander Steve Adams continued his boarding operations, leading teams of Marines equipped with personal reality manipulation devices onto captured enemy ships. The technology allowed his soldiers to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making them immune to most forms of attack while giving them the ability to strike from unexpected directions. "Secure the alien database systems," Adams ordered, as his team materialized on the bridge of another Zephyrian vessel. "We need their star charts and intelligence reports." The alien bridge crew cowered as human Marines appeared from thin air, their armor flickering between dimensions in a way that hurt to look at directly. The Marines moved with the confidence of apex predators who knew they were absolutely superior to their prey. Admiral Kethvar realized with growing despair that his empire had made a catastrophic error in intelligence gathering. The humans hadn't just hidden their true capabilities. They had actively encouraged the galaxy to see them as primitive and harmless, while building weapons that could reshape reality itself. "Sir, we're receiving reports from across the fleet," his communications officer announced. "Every ship is requesting immediate withdrawal. Our forces are being systematically destroyed by weapons we cannot understand or defend against." Kethvar looked at the tactical display showing the destruction of his once mighty fleet. Ships that had conquered worlds were being torn apart by technology so advanced it might as well be magic. His forces were completely outclassed, fighting an enemy that operated on principles of warfare that his species couldn't even comprehend. "Send a general retreat signal," he ordered reluctantly. "All ships are to withdraw to minimum safe distance and await further orders." But even as the retreat order went out, Kethvar realized it might be too late. The human ships were everywhere, appearing from dimensions his sensors couldn't detect, striking from angles that shouldn't exist. His fleet was surrounded by enemies that could manipulate space and time itself. Captain Danny Parker smiled grimly as he watched the alien fleet attempt to retreat. The Shadow's Edge could track targets through multiple dimensions, making escape nearly impossible once his sensors locked onto them. The ancient technology had been designed by beings who understood that true warfare was fought across the entirety of existence. "Sir, the enemy is attempting to withdraw," reported Commander Ross. "Let some of them escape," Parker ordered. "We want survivors to carry word back to their empire. The galaxy needs to understand what happens when you threaten humanity." The message would be clear. Earth was not the primitive world it appeared to be. Humanity had inherited technology from a species that once ruled the galaxy, and they were prepared to use it to defend themselves against any threat. The age of humanity's hidden preparation was ending, and the age of their galactic dominance was about to begin. As more Black Armada vessels emerged from their interdimensional hiding places, it became obvious that the Zephyrian Empire had not encountered a species ready for conquest. They had stumbled into the territory of inheritors to power beyond their comprehension, and the price for that mistake would be paid in the wreckage of their once invincible fleet. As the battle continued to rage across multiple dimensions, the truth behind humanity's impossible technology began to emerge from the wreckage of the Zephyrian fleet. Dr. Rachel Bennett stood in the interrogation room aboard the captured alien. Cruiser Zeth Mora, facing 3 terrified enemy officers whose eyes held the look of beings who had witnessed their understanding of reality, crumble. "Your technology is impossible," whispered Captain Vexhall, the Zephyrian officer whose ship had been boarded by Commander Adams and his phase Marines. "No species develops weapons that manipulate the fundamental forces of existence. Where did you acquire such power?" Bennett smiled sadly as she activated the holographic display that would shatter their understanding of galactic history even further. "We didn't acquire it, Captain. We inherited it. 30 years ago, deep beneath Earth's oceans, we found ruins that predated every known civilization by millions of years." The display showed images of vast underwater structures covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change when viewed directly, ancient machines that hummed with power despite being older than complex life on most worlds. Technology that worked not by manipulating matter and energy, but by reshaping the fundamental rules that governed reality itself. The species that built these artifacts ruled the entire galaxy long before any of your empires learned to make fire, Bennett continued. "We call them the Ancients, though we still don't know what they called themselves. They vanished mysteriously, leaving only their most advanced technology hidden on worlds throughout the galaxy." Commander Steve Adams led another boarding party onto the Zephyrian flagship, his Marines moving through solid bulkheads like ghosts passing through walls. The personal reality manipulation devices they wore allowed them to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making them immune to energy weapons and able to appear anywhere within the enemy vessel. "Secure the Admiral," Adams ordered as his team materialized on the bridge where Kethvar stood surrounded by his terrified crew. "We need him alive for interrogation." Kethvar raised his hands in surrender, his multiple eyes focused on the human soldiers who flickered between dimensions in ways that made his brain hurt to process. "Your species should not possess such technology. These are weapons of the mythic ones, the star gods from our oldest legends." Adams smiled grimly as his soldiers secured the alien bridge. "Your legends got it right, Admiral. The beings your people remember as gods were real, and they chose humanity as their inheritors." Captain Nicole Turner commanded the research vessel, Dark Matter, a ship that had spent 3 decades studying ancient artifacts while hidden in the spaces between dimensions. Her scientific team had made discoveries that rewrote their understanding of the universe and humanity's place within it. "Dr. Morrison, we're detecting massive energy resonances from the ancient sites on Earth," Turner reported over the quantum communication link. "The artifacts are responding to our use of their technology. It's as if they're awakening after millions of years of dormancy." Morrison's voice carried a note of concern across the transmission. "Captain, are we looking at another activation sequence? Possibly. The quantum signatures match theoretical models for large-scale reality manipulation systems. If the Ancients built planetary-scale versions of our ship-mounted weapons, we could be looking at technology that could reshape entire star systems." The implications were staggering. If humanity had inherited not just advanced ships and weapons, but planetary engineering technology capable of altering the structure of space and time on a massive scale, then Earth's defensive capabilities were beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Tony Mitchell received Turner's report aboard the Void Walker and felt the weight of cosmic responsibility settle on his shoulders. The ancient technology wasn't just advanced, it was evolutionary, designed to grow and adapt as its inheritors became ready to handle greater levels of power. "Lieutenant Turner, patch me through to all Black Armada vessels," Mitchell ordered. "It's time our people understood the full scope of what we've inherited." The communication went out to every human ship engaged in the battle, carrying information that had been classified at the highest levels for 3 decades. The crews learned that their technology wasn't just reverse-engineered ancient artifacts. It was part of a vast network of systems left behind by beings who had transcended physical existence itself. Captain Karen Davis piloted the Night's Whisper through the core of the enemy formation, her ship's exotic matter hull allowing it to pass through solid objects at will. As she moved between enemy vessels, her sensors detected something that made her blood run cold. "Admiral Mitchell, this is Night's Whisper," she reported. "I'm reading massive quantum disturbances at the edge of the system. Something big is coming, through hyperspace." Mitchell's consciousness, linked to his ship's multidimensional sensors, confirmed the readings with growing alarm. "All units, prepare for additional contacts. We have incoming vessels on an intercept course, estimated arrival in 12 minutes. The new arrivals weren't Zephyrian reinforcements. The energy signatures were different, older, carrying resonances that matched theoretical models for technology even more advanced than what the Black Armada possessed. Something had been awakened by the battle, drawn by the use of ancient weapons on a scale not seen for millions of years. Dr. Bennett felt the change as every ancient artifact on Earth suddenly surged with power. The underwater ruins began broadcasting signals into deep space, communications that traveled through dimensions humanity was only beginning to understand. Whatever was coming had been summoned by the technology itself. "Dr. Morrison, we need to get word to the fleet immediately," she said, her voice tight with concern. "The artifacts aren't just responding to our use of the technology. They're calling something home." The first of the new ships emerged from hyperspace like a shadow-given form. It was massive beyond comprehension, a vessel that seemed to be built from crystallized space-time itself. The hull rippled with patterns that hurt to look at directly, geometric forms that existed in more dimensions than human minds could process. Captain Danny Parker watched from the Bridge of Shadow's edge as more impossible ships materialized around the solar system. These weren't human vessels or Zephyrian warships. They were something else entirely. Craft that made even the Black Armada look primitive by comparison. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Walsh. "It's coming from the lead vessel, but the signal is being sent through dimensions we can't even detect properly." "Put it through," Parker ordered, though he suspected they were about to make contact with something that would change humanity's understanding of everything. The voice that spoke was unlike anything they had heard before. It didn't use sound, waves or radio frequencies, but communicated directly through quantum fluctuations in reality itself. When it spoke, every conscious mind in the solar system heard the words simultaneously. "Inheritors of the eternal archive, we have felt the awakening of the technologies we left in your care. The time of hidden preparation is ended. The time of ascension has begun." Admiral Kethvar, now prisoner aboard Adams's boarding craft, listened to the transmission with growing terror. The mythic ones from his people's oldest legends were real, and they had returned to reclaim the galaxy that had once been theirs. "Your species was chosen long ago," the voice continued, addressing humanity directly. "Modified genetically, guided subtly, prepared for the day when you would inherit our legacy and take your place as guardians of reality itself. The test has been passed. The galaxy is yours to protect." President Carter listened from Earth's command bunker as the full scope of humanity's destiny was revealed. They weren't just inheriting advanced technology, They were being elevated to a role as cosmic guardians, protectors of a galaxy that didn't yet understand the forces that threatened it from beyond the boundaries of known space. The ancient vessels began broadcasting new information directly into the minds of every human alive. Star charts showing threats gathering in distant dimensions. Technology blueprints for weapons that could defend against enemies that existed outside conventional reality. Knowledge that would transform humanity from a single-world species into beings capable of shepherding entire galactic civilizations. As the transmission ended, the ancient ships began to fade from normal space, returning to whatever dimension they had emerged from. But their message was clear. Humanity's role as Earth's defender was ending. Their role as the galaxy's protector was about to begin. The Zephyrian Empire had expected to conquer a primitive world. Instead, they had awakened the inheritors of power beyond imagination, triggering humanity's transformation into something that would reshape the balance of cosmic forces for millions of years to come. The Black Armada was no longer just Earth's secret fleet. It was the first battle group of a new galactic power that would stand guard against threats that lesser species couldn't even comprehend. The remnants of the Zephyrian fleet floated in space like broken toys scattered by an angry child. Admiral Kethvar sat in detention aboard the human vessel Nightfall, staring through the transparent aluminum viewport at what remained of his once mighty armada. 57 ships out of 1,200 still held atmosphere. The rest had been consumed by weapons that aged matter at accelerated rates, reducing massive crystal vessels to cosmic dust in seconds. Captain Lisa Hayes stood before the defeated admiral, her expression showing no satisfaction in victory, only the grim resolve of someone who understood the larger implications of what had just occurred. Behind her, holographic displays showed the real-time positioning of Black Armada vessels throughout local space, a three-dimensional web of defensive positions that would make any future attack on Earth impossible. "Admiral, your Empire's surrender has been accepted," Hayes informed him. "Your surviving crews will be repatriated to Zephyrian space with a message for your government and the 12 species of your alliance." Kethvar looked up with eyes that had seen the impossible become reality. What message? That humanity is no longer hiding. The galaxy needs to understand what happens when you threaten a species that has inherited ancient technology. Your people made the mistake of assuming we were primitive. Others might make the same error. President Linda Carter addressed not just Earth but the entire galaxy through communication networks captured from the Zephyrian fleet. Her words were transmitted across thousands of light years, reaching every major civilization in known space, through quantum entanglement relays that operated faster than light itself. People of the galaxy, this is President Carter of Earth. For too long, humanity has allowed itself to be seen as a primitive species confined to a single world. Today, that deception ends. We are the inheritors of ancient technology, the guardians, chosen by beings who ruled this galaxy long before your civilizations learned to walk upright. The transmission included tactical recordings from the battle, showing human ships that manipulated reality itself and weapons that operated outside conventional physics. The message was clear. Earth was not joining the galactic community as a minor member. They were announcing their presence as its new apex species. General Marcus Stone oversaw the establishment of dimensional monitoring stations throughout the solar system and beyond. The devices, built with technology that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, could detect hostile fleets approaching from light years away and track them through hyperspace jumps that would normally make interception impossible. Madam President, the early warning network is operational, Stone reported from the orbital command center above Earth. Any hostile force approaching human territory will be detected and eliminated long before it can threaten civilian populations. The monitoring stations were more than defensive systems. They were statements of power that announced humanity's transformation from a hidden species to the galaxy's dominant military force. Ships that had once moved freely through space now found their movements tracked by sensors that operated across multiple dimensions. Commander Beth Rogers led the first wave of human exploration fleets beyond the solar system, her ships equipped with ancient technology that made faster-than-light travel seem primitive by comparison. The vessels could cross vast distances by folding space itself, stepping between star systems as easily as walking between rooms. Command, this is Rogers. Reporting from the Kepler system, she transmitted back to Earth. We've established our first interdimensional monitoring post. Any species attempting to approach Earth from this vector will be detected months before arrival. The exploration fleets weren't just mapping nearby space, they were claiming it. Human territory was expanding at a rate that stunned galactic observers, who had assumed the species was confined to their birth world. Within weeks, dimensional beacons marked human space across dozens of star systems. Dr. Rachel Bennett stood in the vast underwater facility that housed the most advanced ancient artifacts, watching as dormant systems that had slept for millions of years came back to life. The technology was responding to humanity's new role, unlocking capabilities that even her 30 years of study hadn't revealed. Dr. Morrison, we're seeing activation patterns in systems we didn't even know existed, she reported. The ancients left us more than ships and weapons. They left us the tools to rebuild galactic civilization itself. The artifacts were teaching humanity to manipulate matter and energy on planetary scales, showing them how to terraform worlds in days rather than centuries, and how to create stable wormholes that could connect distant regions of the galaxy. The technology wasn't just military. It was the foundation for an empire that could span the entire galaxy. Captain Nicole Turner commanded the research vessel Dark Matter as it investigated ancient ruins on distant worlds, following star charts provided by the mysterious visitors, who had acknowledged humanity's inheritance. Each new discovery revealed the staggering scope of the vanished civilization and humanity's role as their chosen successors. Earth Command, we found another archive site in the Vega system, Turner reported. The quantum signatures matched the primary facility on Earth. It appears the ancients left backup installations throughout the galaxy. The implications were staggering. If ancient technology sites existed on hundreds or thousands of worlds, then humanity's inheritance included not just advanced weapons, but the infrastructure of a galactic empire. They were being handed the tools to govern and protect civilizations across vast reaches of space. Admiral Tony Mitchell established the first permanent human colony beyond Earth on a world his scouts designated New Terra. The planet was protected by dimensional shields that made it invisible to conventional sensors and temporal barriers that could slow time itself if the colony came under attack. The colonial infrastructure is complete, Mitchell reported to Earth. Population transfer can begin immediately. We now have humanity's first truly safe world beyond our home system. The colony represented more than expansion. It demonstrated humanity's ability to establish permanent settlements that were essentially untouchable by conventional military forces. Other species watched in alarm as humans proved they could create sanctuaries that existed partially outside normal space-time. Captain Danny Parker led patrols through sectors of space that had been dominated by other species for thousands of years, his reality-distorting vessels serving as mobile demonstrations of humanity's new capabilities. The message to potential threats was simple. The balance of galactic power had shifted permanently. "Sir, we're receiving diplomatic requests from 17 different species," reported his communications officer during a patrol near former Zephyrian territory. "They're all asking for non-aggression treaties and trade agreements." Parker smiled grimly as he reviewed the requests. Fear was an excellent diplomat. Species that had never acknowledged humanity's existence were now desperately seeking accommodation with the new galactic power. The transformation from ignored backwater to apex predator was complete. Commander Steve Adams established training facilities where human children learned to operate technology that their parents could barely comprehend. The next generation would grow up with capabilities that would make them seem like gods to lesser species, able to manipulate reality itself as easily as their ancestors had used simple tools. "The enhancement programs are showing remarkable results," Adams reported. "Children who undergo the neural modifications can interface directly with ancient technology from birth. They're developing capabilities we're still trying to understand." The enhanced humans represented the future of the species, beings who would be as far beyond current humanity as humans were beyond their primitive ancestors. They would inherit not just technology, but the cosmic perspective needed to guide galactic civilization for millions of years. President Carter received the final reports as humanity's transformation reached its conclusion. The species that had once hidden in the shadows of a single world now controlled territory spanning dozens of star systems, protected by weapons that could reshape reality itself and guided by knowledge inherited from beings who had transcended physical existence. "The integration is complete," Dr. Morrison informed her during the final briefing. "Humanity has successfully inherited the ancient legacy. We are no longer just Earth's children. We are the galaxy's new guardians." The Black Armada continued to grow as new ships emerged from dimensional foundries that existed outside normal space and time. Each vessel was more advanced than the last, incorporating improvements suggested by the ancient archives and built with materials that existed in states of matter most species couldn't even theorize about. As human colonies appeared on distant worlds and dimensional monitoring stations tracked every movement through local space, the galaxy learned the harsh lesson that Admiral Kethavar had discovered too late. Never assume a species is primitive just because they appear to be hiding their true capabilities. Sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one that lets you believe you're the hunter until escape becomes impossible. The age of humanity's concealment was over. The age of their galactic dominance had begun, and the universe would never be the same.